Hello, once again, Kenny Jacobs from Bloomington, Illinois. I'm going to do another video this evening talking about current events as it relates to Bible prophecy. You know, with the world and the chaos that it's in right now, and everybody talking about the need for peace, economies all over the world struggling, war in the Ukraine, war in Israel, war in the Middle East, war in Syria, ISIS on the move through the Middle East, all the terrorism, all the persecution of Christians, it is clear that the world is looking for somebody who has the answers. And the Bible makes it clear that there is a guy coming along who will claim to have all of the answers. And the world will be all too happy to follow him. And with the state of the world right now, it really appears that that man is about to be revealed. With that, I want to get into quite a few news stories this evening. Some of them, again, I'm just going to touch on, read the headline, not read the actual article. I will post all the links into the description box so you can check out the articles for yourself. And I want to thank my sister for sending me the link to this article this morning. This is out of Fox News. Thank you, Diana. She sent me this article, and it's called "The Last Christians in Iraq." It says, car by car, family by family, frightened Iraqi Christians by the thousands fled their ancient Iraqi homeland over the weekend. With broken hearts and little more than the clothes on their backs, they've left behind their houses, businesses, and churches. Everything they've known. The Islamic State, ISIS terror group, announced through their mosques on Friday afternoon that local Christians must either convert to Islam, pay an exorbitant Muslim tax, excuse me, which amounts to protection money, or leave the city. If they did not conform to these demands by noon on Saturday, July 19th, there would be nothing for them but the sword. Christianity is not new to the region. It was introduced by two of Jesus' own disciples, St. Thomas and St. Thaddeus, also known as St. Jude, in the 1st century. But the ancient roots of Iraq's Christianity have now been violently ripped out of the country's spiritual soul. Let's see here. It is not surprising that the vicious tactics of the ISIS terrorists horrify most observers. As is often reported on social media, the substantial videographic evidence, they have beheaded, mutilated, raped, stoned, and even crucified those whose behavior is un-Islamic or whose religious convictions displease them. The West has managed to muster a tepid response. For example, on Sunday, a statement emanating from the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon's spokesman condemned in the strongest terms the systematic persecution of minority populations in Iraq by ISIS and associated armed groups. He is particularly disturbed by reports of threats against Christians in Mosul and other ISIS-controlled parts of Iraq, including an ultimatum to either convert, pay the tax, or face execution. Says the UN and the US and the EU and numerous others have all denounced ISIS, but obviously ISIS really doesn't care what we say, and they're going to continue to do exactly what they're doing unless somebody steps up to fight them. But here's what Obama had to say, speaking about ISIS's activities in Syria. He said, "What we can't do is think that we're just going to play whack-a-mole and send U.S. troops occupying various countries wherever these organizations pop up. Rather than fighting fire with fire, Western leaders apparently imagine that diplomatic endeavors, including strongly worded denunciations, will stop zealous murderers in their tracks." Really? It says Obama and his cohorts seem to have an astonishingly high regard for their persuasive skills. At the same time, they demonstrate only a dim awareness of the terrorists' fierce religious fervor. In Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, Nigeria, Pakistan, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, and elsewhere, it is abundantly clear such niceties as dialogue are of little interest to bloodthirsty savages. So the Christians have fled Iraq, and Islam is continuing to try to grow by threatening people the so-called religion of peace. And even if you are a Muslim person who is peaceful, who is living in peace, and not trying to be part of the jihad that they're waging against Christians around the world, the problem is the Muslim faith is based on the Quran, and the Quran promotes this type of activity, this jihad. Kill the infidels, kill everybody that won't convert to Islam. And that is totally not what Jesus Christ would have stood for. The Muslim faith is anti-Christ. Which brings me to the one scripture I want to read tonight, and that is John chapter 16, verse 2. It says, "They shall put you out of the synagogues. The time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think that he doeth God's service. And these things will they do unto you, because they have not known the Father, nor me." It says they will think that they're doing God service by killing you. That's exactly what the radical Muslims are doing. They think they're serving their God Allah by killing anybody that will not convert to the Muslim faith. They think they're doing God a service. But just like Jesus said, they do that because they do not know me, and they do not know the Father. 1 John says that anybody that denies that Jesus is the Christ, or the Son of God, is Antichrist. In fact, let me just look at that. It says 1 John chapter 4, verse 3, "And every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not a God, and this is that spirit of an Antichrist, whereof ye have heard that it should come, and even now it is in the world. Ye are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. They are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, and the world heareth them. We are of God, and he that knoweth God heareth us. He that is not of God heareth not us. Hereby we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error." In this was manifested the love of God toward us, because that God sent his only begotten Son into the world, that we might live through him. And the Muslims deny that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Alright, man, I'm tired of the Muslim faith. I'm tired of this terrorism. I'm tired of the wars. But unfortunately, they're really just beginning. The final 7-year period of time, evil is going to be rampant like you've never seen and you could never even begin to imagine. Alright, let's look at another news story here. Speaking of peace and wars and end times, and as I said at the beginning of this video, the world is looking for somebody with all the answers and somebody to bring on peace. As you know, John Kerry tried to broker a peace agreement with the Palestinians and Israel for 9 months, and it fell apart in April. But here is, excuse me, an article today out of the Times of Israel. It says, Egypt suggests restarting peace talks as part of a ceasefire bid. Egyptian FM meets with Kerry, who says he wants to end fighting and find a way to deal with the underlying issues. Egypt's foreign minister raised the possibility Tuesday of restarting stalled peace talks between the Israelis and the Palestinians as part of negotiating a ceasefire in the war that has broken out in the Gaza Strip. At the start of the meeting with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, Foreign Minister Shakuri said he planned to work with the U.S. and other world leaders to not only resolve this issue, but also to set in motion once again the peace process that Secretary Kerry has been so actively involved in as to end this ongoing conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis. They seek to hopefully find not only a way to a ceasefire, but a way to deal with the underlying issues that are very complicated. But he stopped short of agreeing to reopen the peace talks that abruptly broke off last April after 9 months of his personal attention. It says President Barack Obama, meanwhile, is trying a delicate balancing act on the Mideast conflict. Obama on Monday reaffirmed his belief that Israel has the right to defend itself against a barrage of more than 1,500 rockets launched by Hamas, while voicing fresh concern about civilian casualties. He said Israel's military assault of Gaza had already done significant damage to Hamas's network of tunnels, safe havens, and other infrastructure, as he talked of the need for a ceasefire. Yet, the Palestinians are continuing to fire rockets into Israel. Israel needs to continue protecting itself. All right, let's move on. This is also out of the Times of Israel today. Just to show you about, Hamas can't be trusted and they do not want peace. Let me find the article real quick. It says, for a second time, rockets found at a UN school in Gaza. It says, how many more schools will have to be abused by Hamas missile squads before the international community will intervene? For a second time in less than a week, rockets have been found in a school in Gaza operated by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, the body said. Today, in the course of the regular inspection of its premises, UNRWA discovered rockets hidden in a vacant school in the Gaza Strip. As soon as the rockets were discovered, the staff were withdrawn from the premises, and so we were unable to confirm the precise number of rockets. The school is situated between two other UNRWA schools that currently each accommodate 1,500 internationally displaced persons. Alright, so let's look at another related story to that same event. It has to do with the United States and giving aid. It says, U.S. defends aid to the UNWRA despite rocket caches. Washington critics of $15 million grant cite longtime allegations regarding UN group's proximity to Hamas. The State Department defended Secretary of State John Kerry's decision to grant $15 million in humanitarian aid to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees in the Near East, even as the organization confirmed the discovery of additional rockets stored in one of its Gaza schools. Critics in Washington, however, blasted the Secretary's decision to include UNRWA as a recipient of part of a $47 million humanitarian package designed to aid Gazan civilians. I'm going to stop right there. And first of all, we need to pray for the people of Gaza, the civilians that are being harmed, and the ones, the families of the people who have been killed. But come on, our nation is a complete mess. The economy is completely about to collapse. We can't even take care of our own people, yet we're committing $47 million to the people in Gaza who are controlled by a terrorist group that is attacking our number one ally in the Middle East, Israel. If they want humanitarian aid, they need to completely stop all terrorism for an extended period of time. That's what I think. And we don't give them any aid until they have absolutely stopped the attacks. Period. And as soon as they start up again, No more aid. And why are we even, again, discussing the nuclear plans and the program with Iran when they're holding Pastor Ahmadini there? They've abused him, they've almost killed him, they've almost beat him to death for being a Christian, and he's an American citizen. Yet we're negotiating with Iran right now over their nuclear program and saying nothing about Pastor Ahmadini. President Obama does not seem to care one iota, when it gets right down to it, about the Christian persecution around the world. And I'm tired of watching us pull away from Israel, abandon Israel, criticize Israel, give aid to Israel's enemies who are trying to destroy them. I keep saying it, and I'm going to say it again. It's going to lead to the destruction of the United States of America. God will judge us for... He said, I will bless those who bless Israel, and He'll curse those who curse Israel. Oh, boy. I'm going to do 2 more headlines. I'm not going to read the stories. These are out of, maybe even 3 headlines. These are out of the Prophecy News Watch newsletter. One of them, every Christian private school, charity, and parachurch organization that accepts federal money is about to have its faith tested. It says a Christian college in Massachusetts requested the freedom to live out its ideals, and since some powerful people don't share those ideals, they're set to destroy Gordon College. Christian rights are being taken away. The mainstream media, the politically correct, whatever you want to call it, movement, the ecumenical movement, the movement to include and accept all faiths and all beliefs, that movement is intolerant of one thing and one thing only. Well, 2 if you count the Jewish people. Christianity. They're supposed to be tolerant, but they're intolerant. Excuse me. It's intolerant of the Word of God. They're intolerant of Jesus Christ. They continue to keep removing further and further and further from our society Jesus Christ. Another major sign of the last days. Here's another article. Honey, I tracked the kids and Grandpa using LG's Kiz-On wristband. It says LG has unveiled a new tracking device for children that allows parents to locate them in real time using a smartphone or tablet app. Sounds good. Sounds like a cool thing. Sounds like a nice, safe way to keep track of your children. And then it goes on to say... let's see here. Children as well as the elderly are ideal customers for wearable technologies, says Dr. John Park, Chief Executive of LG Electronics Mobile. Wearables allow us to stay connected without the worry of losing a device or the inconvenience of having to carrying a large item in a pocket. The band straps to the child's wrist like a large bulky watch and has one button on the top that instantly calls a preset number, allowing the child to contact his parents with an emergency. Goes on to talk about the battery life and all that. But there's one thing about that. That's not totally true. If it's a watch that you have to strap on, you could still lose it. He talks right here about without the worry of losing a device. Well, that's what they're going to eventually say. You know what? That can be lost. So why don't we just implant the chip right in their hand so we can track them and you don't have to worry about them losing this device. The technology for the mark of the beast is here, and the world is going to buy right into it because they're going to think it's cool, cutting-edge technology that's going to make their lives easier. One other... church sales and the shifting American demographic. It just says that throughout America, church buildings are either being sold and demolished or replaced by Islamic mosques, Hindu temples, and in many cases even private residences, nonprofit organizations, schools, medical facilities, on and on and on. And it just talks about how donations to churches are down. Attendance in churches is down. And why? Well, because in the last days there'll be a great falling away and apostasy. And the love of many will grow cold. Men will be lovers of themselves more than lovers of God. That's exactly where we're at. The world is in a state of complete chaos, complete mess. And as I said earlier, I'm going to keep saying until I'm called home, that Jesus Christ is about to return. All the signs are here. And the world is going to be all too willing to accept the coming Antichrist that will, at some point, confirm a covenant with many, and is continuing to be talked about by world leaders of nations all around this world. It is time to make sure you are saved and ready for the end, for the return of Jesus Christ. He is the only source of salvation. The world doesn't want to hear that, but it is the truth. Keep looking up. All the signs are here. God bless everyone.